Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. My name is, of course, Charles Q. Banks, and I'd like to welcome you to my movie review of Collateral. This movie came out in 2004. It seems like a 90s film. I almost said 1990s. But is directed by Michael Mann, and of course stars Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx, with an appearance by Mark Ruffalo of Avengers fame, plays the Hulk and Bruce Banner, which is very interesting. This is an earlier film with Mark Ruffalo in it, and he does an amazing job, by the way. But the premise of this movie is as follows. A cab driver, Jamie Foxx, realizes his current fare is a hitman that has been having him drive around from hit to hit until the last witness to a crime is dead. When the cabbie finally figures out the truth, he must prevent the assassin from wiping out his last witness without becoming the next in the professional killer's line of casualties. And it's very interesting because Tom Cruise is the assassin. And I remember seeing a trailer for this movie in the opening trailers of Bourne Supremacy, I want to say. Back, when that came out. I bought Bourne Supremacy and was watching it, and Collateral was in the trailers. And I was not really impressed with what I saw. I was kind of interested because it looked like a fun action movie. But it played itself off as like a really kind of trashy, kind of Sin City-esque, romp through the Las Vegas underworld, or not Los Angeles, underworld, with Tom Cruise going around shooting people while sliding across the floor, and wouldn't that be fun? Of course it would. But it was rated R, and I was kind of surprised that Bourne Supremacy, a PG-13 movie, should have a trailer for an R movie. But nevertheless, I was kind of interested, but it looked just dumb. It looked like just another action movie, and I didn't know Michael Mann at the time. I've never seen a Michael Mann movie other than Collateral now. And so you'll know, if you've seen Michael Mann movies, that he is a rather artistic action movie creator, which seems counterintuitive to itself, but it's not, apparently. And what got me to actually watch this film was Chris Stuckman Reviews. He's another YouTuber reviewer of movies, film reviewer, and you can find him easily if you just type in Chris Stuckman. He does a lot of film reviews, and good ones, well done ones, but with the caveat that he may use inappropriate language from time to time. Not all the time, like some people, but when he deems it appropriate, which I think it's never appropriate, but just know that when you go to watch his reviews. Or if you do, but watch mine. So I watched his review of it, and he gave it a 10 out of 10, which I was like, wow, that's weird. A simple, stupid, vulgar action movie is given a 10 out of 10? Chris Stuckman, that's interesting. And I've come to know Chris Stuckman in his videos, through his videos, so I know why he thinks that now. But this film has also garnered reviews of 7.6 on IMDb, 3.5 out of 4 from Roger Ebert, and 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. All rather positive. So, I went and actually watched this film, just to be like, okay, I'll see what I think of it. I still didn't have very high expectations. I came to it with very low expectations, based on my earlier viewing of the trailer, because, other people's opinions don't usually affect my judgment. It's very rare for that to happen, unless it's someone I really trust, and even then, sometimes I get burned. So I tend to not listen to people and change my expectations based on what other people say. So I came to this movie with really low expectations, and I came out really impressed. I actually really liked it. Not because it was just a simple action movie, I came expecting that, but there was more to it. The directing and the artfulness and the edifice of this movie, the artifice, I should say, of this monumental edifice, which is Collateral, it's just so artistic. There are so many beautiful scenes where there are these, the only thing I can think of that's similar is like in Cowboy Bebop, there's a few scenes where the main character is backlit by the city lights, and that happens a lot in this movie, where there are these scenes that only show the silhouettes of the main characters, and it's very artistic, very cool. Michael Mann tries to make everything cool all the time in this movie. Um, and it has this interesting HD effect. He chose to film this entire film in HD rather than high quality like he could have. And it gives it this grainy effect, kind of like you're seeing on my webcam right now. It's all very grainy like this, but it's all very intentional. And it plays off of the very highly saturated essence of HD, showing off the night lights of Los Angeles as you're driving around at night with the cabbie and his assassin in the back. and so yeah, it's beautiful visually, but it's also beautiful. You could say it's beautiful in a metaphorical sense. There's lots of heady dialogue between the two characters about life and the meaning of life. Jamie Foxx having a very simple, down-to-earth, American dream style vision of the worldview, and the assassin having a worldview which is basically what is, and kind of like even in Cowboy Bebop, he says, whatever happens, happens, and there's nothing good or bad about it. You kill someone, and if it's your job and you make money off it, then so be it. Everyone else is doing everything they can to survive, and Tom Cruise is doing that as well. And the interesting thing about his role, Tom Cruise's role in this movie, is that he is the villain. It's the only movie where I've seen Tom Cruise as the villain, and he does an excellent job. It's not like I expected, where Jamie Foxx is just this normal black guy who is kind of down on his luck, but then this assassin shows up and they become friends and buddy cops, and they go and they kill people and they do good by killing evil people. That's what I thought it would be. But no, it's Jamie Foxx is just a normal guy, and like I said in the premise, Tom Cruise is trying to kill people, and Jamie Foxx doesn't like it. He's trying everything he can to not be involved with this, and every reaction of Jamie Foxx's in this movie is very real. You can imagine yourself in his shoes very easily, and most of his decisions are like, yeah, of course, I would do the same thing. And he plays kind of more of a shell-shocked average Joe than I would expect. And he does have that kind of backstory, not really a backstory, but his own sense of self and of his own quest in life is, like I said, the American dream to get this limo service off of the ground, where you'll come into his, instead of his cab, his limo, and he'll drive people to their destinations, and when you get there, you won't want to leave, because it was just such a good, like, club experience, and it'll be so much fun, there'll be drinks and all this, and that's his dream. But he's a cabbie, and he has been for 12 years, and he's really good at his job. He's so good that it's almost like a Sherlock. He becomes this Sherlockian type of guy. He's seen so many people come into his cab that he knows every single character type, basically. And he's put in peril right after you've learned his full character arc so far. And they say that this movie is extremely fast-paced. I mean, it says right there, an adrenaline rush. But the beginning of this movie is actually really slow. It kind of reminds me of the opening to Conspiracy Theory, where it's just a cabbie driving people around, and they're talking and, cussing and, being rowdy, and he just has to deal with it. And he has this picture of a desert island on his, on the top of his cab, inside of his cab, and he looks at that whenever he's stressed out, and he goes there in his mind, and he can be at peace. And so what happens is he has to give that away at one point, and he gives that away, and he feels really good about it at the time, but then Tom Cruise shows up as an assassin, and he's looking to where he had the photo, and it's not there anymore. And it's that kind of movie where you're constantly feeling the pain of this guy who is basically held at gunpoint the entire time and just doing everything he can to be a good person in the midst of this horrible situation. And Tom Cruise is just, he doesn't give a care about anything or anyone, and he will stop at nothing to complete his mission, to the point of killing perhaps his only friend in life, Jamie Foxx, because he starts to be very friendly about this guy, and they start to talk back and forth very intellectually about the meaning of life, and he starts to lecture Jamie Foxx about what he should be doing in life in order to grab his dream, and he hasn't done it, and it's just a justification for him to be in this cabbie job and never leave because it's comfortable, and such apathy in the world. And he's living the opposite life, where he just does what he pleases, and he just survives, and killing people isn't wrong. It's just another way to get a paycheck, and that's good too. So anyway, there are some twists and turns that are very interesting, and all the time Mark Ruffalo is a Los Angeles detective, and he is onto Tom Cruise. Nobody knows the true the face or the track record of Tom Cruise as an assassin, and so they're trying to figure out where he is, why these deaths are happening, why these murders are happening, and Mark Ruffalo believes that there's an assassin doing this. And so he's trying to uncover the mystery of what's happening, and he's following their cab, and they get brought into conflict. And so, yeah, so I'm very pleased by this movie. It's a bit more heady than I expected. It kind of reminds me of the type of movie that Firewall is, if you've heard of that movie. Harrison Ford as an older dad with a large family, well, medium-sized family, normal family, and his family gets kidnapped in their house on house arrest by these criminals who are holding them for ransom because Harrison Ford works at a bank, and he's in charge of the internet firewall to keep the bank secure digitally. And these hackers are the ones who are doing this to him. And so he goes around trying to catch the killers and trying to kill them before they kill him or his family. And that was a train wreck of a movie because there was nothing new to it. Harrison Ford did a great job, but it was just stupid. And that's what I expected this movie to be. And that, you know, don't get me wrong, that movie really has its good points. It's very thrilling. It's very gritty. The acting is amazing in terms of the two leads going off of each other. And so that's the thing. This movie has two leads and, you know, a few side characters that are really focused on, and they're all focused on very well. The only bad thing about it is that the backstories are not present for anyone. You kind of, you know, learn who these people are as you watch them in this situation. And so the situation is more focused on than the characters are, but it fleshes out who they are as it goes on. And so that's cool. There is character development, but I really care about, like, character development that fully encapsulates the entire character, not just what they're going through in the events of the movie. Because this movie is set to take place in one night, and just like 5 hours in a night. And so you really feel the sense of presence and of time passing, and you really get to know the two main characters well, as much as you can, but not quite enough to satisfy someone like me, who is fully invested in just characters for the character's sake. But this is more a plot-based movie. And there's a lot to it. There's a specific vlog, or blog, I should say, that I would recommend to just about anyone who is interested in learning more about Collateral than this review can provide, because I don't want to give any spoilers. But if you want to go into more of a full review of this movie in more of a bloggy, rambly, and definitely kind of pretentious way, that it's just a massive blog, I will put the link in the description of a man named Darren Franich's review of Collateral. And it goes step by step through every scene, and tells you how much there is to be read into in this movie. And I don't think you can get a lot out of this movie, but it's still very simple. It's one that you may think a lot about directly afterwards, but just like Fireball, you may forget this in an instant, because it's just so fast at certain points, and it just stops, full stop at the end, and it's just over. There's no real resolution, and that's something that this movie really suffers from. It has a really long introduction, which I think kind of makes the audience suffer by having to watch through about 20, it feels like 30 minutes, but it's more like 15 minutes. It's really poorly paced at the beginning, but then it ramps up as time goes on, until the end, where it just ramps up to 100, and then it just stops, full stop, and you don't get an afterword of what happens to the characters. So in terms of an action movie, this movie is almost perfect. It almost touches all of the bases in terms of what is good. And in terms of the rating, the parental guide rating of being an R, this is a very light R. There is no sexual anything. There's no nudity, despite them being in a bunch of clubs. There's no real sexual side to this movie. There's a hint of romance, but nothing scandalous, nothing, there's no kissing, it really just focuses on the thrill ride that is an assassin having to be attached to a cab driver throughout the night, and he tells Jamie Foxx he's going to kill him by the end of the night, unless he does all the things he says, and even then you think he's gonna kill him. So anyway, my final verdict for this movie is a solid 8 out of 10, and that's just because of my own enjoyment. I think this movie definitely deserves the 7.6 that IMDb gave it. Most people will probably give it a 7 or 8 or a 9 or a 10. And again, the critics love this movie. The people who look at it for the filmmaking, the directing, the acting, all of the technical side of this movie, all the heady ideas that you can find in that blog I mentioned, will give it a 10 or a 9, or I give it an 8 because it's not perfect. There are a few things that could have been explained better. Backstories are not well enough explained, and it's just focusing on, whoa, that just happened? Whoa, that's cool, that's crazy, man. I didn't expect that to happen. What a twist, And there's a death that's very interesting. I didn't expect. And the acting is very good, but yeah, the ending and the beginning both bring the movie down a couple points. So I give this an 8 out of 10, and that's a great movie. It's not the best, it's not a masterpiece, it's just a really great action thriller. And everyone has a different opinion. This is mine. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.